My name's Chris.
And I'm just Devo.
This is the Washing Up Podcast. I never know what she's going to say. And it was cooking week, and I didn't even get to start the way I was going to start the podcast, but I'm going to keep going anyway because I can't be bothered rewinding.
Okay, I'm Kristie, and I'm just sad to see Oyaks go. Just sad, but...
Now what start with the letter C?
What's the letter C?
Canada start with C. Let's think of other things that start with C, like CBC Jam. CBC Jam start with C. What else start with C? Let's think of Chris start with C. What else start with C?
I can't say it because I'm trying.
Cognac start with C.
Yeah, cognac.
And you need cognac for drinking game because cookie start with C, and cookie drinking game get you drunk.
Okay, I can't do that the whole podcast. I'm going to be dead. So...
Thank you for cheering me up.
And
reminding me this week is really about the cookie.
It's really about the cookie. You know,
I did it all for the cookie.
Get out of my head!
No.
As Fred Durst, the poet laureate of our times, once said, I did it all for the cookie. The cookie. The cookie. I did it all for the cookie. Anyway... That's one too many Limp Biscuit references. Biscuit, cookie, done. Thank you. Okay, that's it. We're done. Thank you. I'm still... No, let's move on. So, obviously, this week is Cookie Week. Now, I'm just going to start with the drinking game.
Yes, because
Alan started with the drinking game.
Chris showed me the drinking game that he put together. I'm like, okay, do the puns. I said, but make it double if someone says... the cookie crumbles, like that's the way the cookie crumbles.
So I put the game together. I said to Kristie, "What do you think about this week's one?" And she goes, "Yeah, double if that's the way the cookie crumbles because someone's going to do it." Mm-hmm. Cut to
10 seconds in.
Them laying on the lawn. The first thing we get is, "I'm a smart cookie." And then they go the second one, and Alan goes, "Well, that's the way the cookie crumbles." At which point I'm like, "I'm so sorry, everybody."
But we've started off in a positive
3 drinks before you see a recap of last week.
It's like I'm back at university. it's Wednesday night at the uni bar.
3 drinks and the lecture hasn't even begun. The lecturer hasn't even come in and put their briefcase down and pretended to be disappointed at the size of his audience. So, obviously, Cookie Week was always going to be a little bit stressful as well. It's an interesting week, actually. See, Biscuit Week, Cookie Week. You know, again, obviously you get different mixtures. We've seen, and we will get to it, obviously, the technical was an interesting choice of technical because it may have broken an entire country's season. And I'm not joking, we will get there.
Yeah.
So, they cut back into the pavilion. Before I get there, I haven't even read the drinking game. We stopped on the first one.
No. Let's go. So, there's more.
A baker has never heard of a bake. No, they'd all heard of them.
No, someone hadn't heard of...
Stroopwafel?
No, not Stroopwafel. The first one that they did, the Viennese cookies.
Oh, yeah, the Linzer. Yeah.
The Linzer.
Larry makes something outside of just the expected bake. Close, given that he did go back to construction, and we'll talk about that. But no, didn't do that. Baker gets an ovation. Yes, there was an ovation there. Okay. Baker has I look away for a minute disaster. We came close a couple of times.
It's just Raffacat with her falling building.
And Larry looked away from his jam for a minute and very nearly, and then looked back at the camera with a knowing look. That's a washing up veteran. Right? I just want to point out to any prospective bakers, and by the way, they put the call out today for season 5.
Yes.
The call went out. So if you're in Canada, if you're a baker,
if you want Go and apply.
No, don't tell them to press pause. They can listen to us while they do it.
Okay.
We're motivation.
Okay,
but
true.
Far more importantly...
First question, name.
Far more importantly...
Second question, date.
Listen to what we have to say when it comes to baking.
Will you send Kristie biscuits?
Listen to what we say when it comes to baking, because Larry knows of the I look away for a second disaster. It saved him. He looked at the camera, and I'm sure he was spiking the lens at us and giving us a bit of a, Chris and Kristie, gotcha.
That's for you.
We gotcha. I know this. I've played that drinking game. I've gotcha. So I'm sure that was what it was. Larry, feel free in the comments to tell everyone that's what
Just
it was.
confirm.
Even if it wasn't, Larry.
Yeah. Just pretend.
Matcha or
like
yuzu?
I do.
Matcha or yuzu?
Look
now,
at me, I'm in the royal palace. I'm pretending.
Matcha or yuzu? Now, some of our Canadian listeners may not be aware
of Chris's disgust for matcha
of
and
my
yuzu.
disdain for matcha and my disappointment at the overuse of yuzu.
So I just don't think it's being used enough now. The yuzu is not being used enough.
I'm scaring people away from it.
You are. I think you're on a one man. I think the big user was going to come for you.
A big user were always going to come for me, though. That was always the plan. I was going to be taken out by
the Mafia.
I was going to be taken out by the Yuzuka. So I'm not going to lie. I can't remember a joke I've been prouder of at this podcast than that one. The Yuzuka. Anyway, so look,
the big citrus.
My thing is, I don't understand the overuse of matcha. Yuzu's nice. I actually like yuzu. But it got to a point a couple of years ago where it was in every single thing, and I just can't stand to see it again. Cookie puns, yeah, well, we all know. Everyone's blotto off that. A debate over whether a bake is really a cookie. We didn't get that. Now, most seasons we do get something biscuity or cookie-based, where is it really or not?
Like stroopwafel.
Stroopwafel's interesting.
Is it a biscuit or is it a waffle?
It's a waffle in my mind, but they didn't debate it.
No.
So it's not a drink.
I eat it as if it was a biscuit. Like, I'm not making that as a standalone. I'd have that like with a
shout out to friend of the show, Robert Harwood, of course, who when we went over to Perth, greeted me with a packet of stroopwafel. Only Robert would greet me with a packet of stroopwafel. He said he would have made them, but he just ran out of time. Now Bruno mentions butter. He didn't this week.
Oh my gosh, there's no butter mention.
No, he was too busy talking about caramel.
Yes, true, and cashews.
And cashews were a big... But caramel was the main thing this week, so he didn't really discuss the butter. Alan removes his hat.
Nope.
Still no.
No.
I really think that we were onto something when we were talking to Birdie on the weekend. I don't think it ever comes off. And if it does come off, I think it's going to reveal a slightly smaller hat. I just like the idea there's like a babushka effect going on under there. And every hat he removes, it gets a little bit smaller till it's like a teensy tiny little hat.
Until you get to the last one where it's like a little mouse wearing a hat. And then the mouse starts taking off hats.
And then there's more hats for the mouse. And then a flea.
A flea
and then
with
it keeps going. And then eventually it's just a microbe.
Yes, a microbe.
With hats.
An amoeba with hats.
An amoeba with hats. Wasn't that the name of a band in the 80s?
Amoeba with hats.
Amoeba with hats. No, that was Men Without Clothes.
Yeah,
really close. Anyway, Alan decides to catch everybody up on the show so far, and his answer to catching up on everyone on the show so far is just about catch everyone up. I'm having a wonderful time.
Thanks, Alan.
Thank you, Alan.
They're nice, just little pleasantries. Like, it's nice.
I think we can all say yes. I think we all heartily agree with that. This so far has been delightful. So the opening challenge was Linzer cookies. Now, Linzer cookies, they needed to be neat, elegant, and uniform. They needed to have the balance between soft and crumbly. You have 90 minutes to make 18 cookies.
And you have to have a peekaboo window.
Peekaboo window.
Yes, just not a peekaboo.
No.
Peekaboo.
A peekaboo window.
Not a Pikachu window.
Peekaboo. No. So anyway, Larry.
Although you make a jam out of real. Which Pokemon would you use to make a proper jam? Like would the
Charizard.
Bulbasaur?
Charizard.
Really, Charizard jam?
You
Would
get
it
the
be
colour.
smoky? Oh, you get a nice colour. But wouldn't Bulbasaur have a nicer flavour with like the flower on their back? Like,
I mean, maybe. What if it's toxic?
oh. But what if you don't like the person you're making the windowed cookies for?
Pikachu.
Okay, we're really
Pikachu's like a lemon
avant-garde.
curd. I'm sure if you squeeze a Pikachu hard enough, it becomes lemon curd. Try it. Next time you see a Pikachu in the wild, try it. Anyway, so I love the way you're saying that's the line. Like some of the stuff,
avant-garde.
some of the stuff you say, and me squeezing Pikachus in the wild is avant-garde and weird. Anyway.
Yeah. Come on.
So Larry announced that he was
Be serious.
Larry announced that he was resetting, and like last week was gone.
The Loch Ness monster meeting for Scottish people. I don't know.
Anyway, Larry announced that he was resetting, and like last
Convention.
week
That's
no longer mattered. Hazelnut, not almond with his cookies. That was a bit of a difference because they're usually almond based. Larry went hazelnut based. Now he went spice with.
He went nuts with nuts.
He did, and then with nutmeg and cinnamon, and then had citrus and berry.
Ooh, nice.
So
beautiful choice there, Laz.
now Raffacat. Now Raffacat decided to go with chocolate and vanilla with a coffee ganache.
Yes, and with the theme of day and night.
It was day and night. It was.
I'd like to think it was Cath Day Night. Just a bit of Kath and Kim reference.
Nice.
It was nice. It was unique.
It was different. So
It was unusual.
It was unusual, love. I do like the coffee ganache idea, obviously. I mean,
You're like, just hold the ganache.
yeah, just the coffee. I'll just take...
Just mash some coffee beans just into the centre of a biscuit and Chris is done.
Yeah, I'm set. Dominique was making blackberry dark rum jam, and I feel like she's made this in a home still.
Yes.
I feel like this is something she's done before. All radio personalities need a side job. I'd like to think hers is a legal hooch.
And legal. She does both.
I mean, look.
She hides her illegal hooch front behind a legal hooch front.
Nobody will ever see it coming. No. Like, you never see the illegal still behind the legal one. You know, almost bringing to the question, is the illegal one really needed? And the answer is yes. Always needed. I like the idea of this blackberry dark rum jam. I mean, it feels like on one hand you could appear to normal people to just be spreading, some jam on your toast and getting absolutely fucking blotto.
Yes, it's like, no, boss, I'm just having my jam sandwich at
I
work.
have a jam problem, not a drinking problem. My problem is jam.
It all started with my mother. Well, her mum cooked jam. They were cooking jam.
Exactly, that was what I was talking
She'd go to
about.
sleep to the smells of jam. That's delightful.
So there were also two different types of cookies. One of them was a poppy seed, which was really... I like a good poppy seed.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of a good poppy seed.
I keep telling you about that legendary poppy Danish. It is one of the mythical foods that I cannot find again.
We'll get mythical chef Josh to help you out with that one.
Well, I want that. I want my chicken wings, my stuffed chicken wings.
You still can't find your stuffed chicken wings, can you?
No. I'm sure I didn't dream it.
I'm starting to think
I did a lot of illegal things when I was in my 20s, but I'm
stuffed chicken wings.
But that wasn't one of them.
I like the idea of the illegal stuffed chicken wings, though. So now Maggie has her grandmother's recipe, which means that she's, first of all, perfectly placed for an appearance on next season's MasterChef Australia, because she has now a grandmother recipe.
Yes.
So
if you've got a nonna,
or a yaya, or a grandmother, I mean, look, just a grandmother will do in a pinch, but a yaya or a nonna in particular will get you over the line every time in Australian MasterChef.
Well, her grandmother was Yugoslavian as well, so there's bound to be. I'm going to Google it. You keep talking.
It's got to be a yaya. It's got to be a yaya. Anyway, so it was her recipe. Now, the other interesting thing is on Bake Off, having a grandmother's recipe very rarely fails. They're usually really good. What I was impressed with, though, is that this was unusual for a grandmother's recipe.
Baba, even better.
That's fantastic. So what I love about the recipe, though, is most of the time when you get these sorts of recipes from grandmothers, there's lard.
Yes.
Or there's some other weird thing that no one in their right mind would ever use now because science says it's going to kill you.
Look, the special ingredient is 1/4 of a spoon of strychnine.
Well, just to angry up the blood. I mean, you just enough strychnine to show you care.
And look, just a sprinkle of arsenic in your icing sugar, and you've got everyone on their feet and clapping at how good that is.
Exactly. It's really important that you do that, and I think asbestos, just dust it over the top lightly, just to give it the texture you want.
Exactly, just some unrefined oil, like crude oil in your jam.
I've mentioned this on other episodes, but I was gifted a couple of cookbooks that my mother found that belonged to my great-grandmother. And one of them, it was basically should have been titled 1,000,001 Ways to Use Offal. Because everything, including the cakes, had offal somewhere in there. It was literally just everything was offal.
Just grind up some hooves, pop it in your cake.
And the other book was basically lard, How I Love Thee.
It does sound like an ode.
Yes.
Just your great-grandmother sitting there just going, today, offal or lard? What shall I cook for my family?
Look, it's a decision.
How shall I show my love to my family?
How do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Offal? Lard. But no, instead Maggie went with things like shortbread and lemon curd and apricot. So,
like, not offal.
Not offal and not lard. Oyax. Now, Oyax decided to go with a mango and brandy jam and then decided to sell everybody on the mango capabilities of his homeland.
I'd like to have a mango off between Australia and Nigeria. I wonder if there's like a worldwide mango competition.
Oh, there should be.
Okay.
If there's not, there needs to be. It's one of the few big things we don't have. We don't have a big mango.
No. Now, I want to get my friend's Auntie Pammy in to judge. And this is because when we were younger, when there's just like weird sayings that just stick in your mind. So we went to the grocery shop with my friend's aunt because it was like school holidays. You just all hang out together. And she's going around and she's like picked up some different fruits and she's gone up to and it must have been the summer school holidays because it was mango season. And she's gone just out of the blue to the greengrocer. I love your mangoes. And this has just become like a line that myself and Danielle will
I love your mangoes.
I love your mangoes.
It's up there with...
So I thought I wanted her to judge it because she knows a good mango.
It's up there with, I think I've mentioned this one before too, but it's one of my favourite stories from university. While I was at uni and the World War II, we were watching World War II footage of like people on the home front. And, they're up there and it's one of those cinematic voiceovers, Australia, country on the go. And they're there and there's women picking fruit and that's what they were showing. And they showed this one woman up a ladder, up a tree picking fruit and the shot is below her, framing her derriere quite firmly, and the voiceover guy goes, "Look at those peaches!" And to this day...
And I'm sure that was our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison.
I'm quite sure it was. Anyway, but no, the mango, I love your mangoes. It's very similar to, wow, you could do, look at those peaches, I love your mangoes. But a mango and brandy jam, I feel like I now need to try this. Because we've got really good mangoes here in Australia.
And we have brandy.
And we have brandy. Oh, we have brandy. I'm actually looking over my shoulder right now and our shelf has brandy on it.
It does.
We don't have mangoes though. We're just leaving mango season.
Oh, another year.
We're at the tail end of mango season.
We are.
So now we're officially in autumn.
Sadness is stone fruits going from the shelves.
It is disappointing. Maybe we can get some...
I feel like I'm going to make a haiku about it.
Maybe we can get some Nigerian mango in though.
Yes!
Yeah,
okay,
done.
there we
Beautiful.
go.
Sorted. He also
can like hook us up.
He also went with cinnamon spice sugar cookies. Now Sheldon was marbling the dough.
Yeah.
And it was tahini.
Yes, but then we had Anne in the corner, and I'm sure she was going for Anne Purnell's Drag Race. She's like, make it beautiful, make it work.
Yeah, we'll come to that because she got even more intense later on. Like as the episode grew, it got more intense. We'll come to that.
I just feel like Anne is going to adopt a drag queen and just become like a stage mum.
Oh, 100%. But she was doing this to everyone. It got to the point where it was Anne Purnell's Drag Race. So the mosaic pattern that he had was amazing.
And he'd got it 3D printed.
Made his own 3D printed cookie cutters with this design inspired by art from the Islamic world.
Yeah.
It was a mosaic with apricot marmalade.
Yeah, and using the tahini flavour, which is a Middle Eastern flavour. So
now Mahathi, she made some chocolate lenses. And they were shaped like treble clefs and notes because she talked about her musical abilities.
Yes, and I was worried that, the treble clefs weren't going to work, but they look beautiful.
And the other thing, though, that you would be impressed with was her filling, because her filling was mulled wine.
I missed... How did
the pagan miss the mulled wine?
Oh, my God, Mahathi, well bloody done. You can come to a Yule gathering and I'll make you some mulled wine and we'll just sit down and eat some treble clefs.
Eat some treble clefs
and eat and drink some mulled wine.
And drink some mulled wine. Yeah, that could be good. Like, or just look, you don't have to put it in the cookie. Just have it for the Dunkin'.
Yes. Oh, if we're saying goodbye to mango season, then mulled wine season is coming up.
That is the benefit.
Yeah, there's like a week in Australia where it gets cold enough to really enjoy mulled wine.
There's about to be a cauldron with some mulled wine and a cinnamon stick.
Yes.
Yes, and some orange peel. Mm-hmm. You do a very good mulled wine, I'll admit.
And star anise.
Yes, you do a very good mulled wine.
Might throw some mangoes in. From Nigeria.
Nigerian mangoes. So Tanner. Now, Tanner had lime-infused biscuits with strawberry jam, which I thought was an interesting combination, the strawberry and the lime.
But that makes sense because it's just a nice little, citrus hit to strawberries to brighten them, so...
And I love at this point they cut back to Anne and Alan, where Alan did the whole, no, you got a little bit of time left and the judges will stare deep into your souls. And Anne goes... Or just judge. It's just a judge. It's just judging time.
Judging your biscuits.
Just judging time. Then they all pull their biscuits out of the oven, and you're always waiting to see who's going to be slightly over. And unfortunately for poor Tanner, His were the ones. He pulled them out. He looked at them and went, oh, well, they're over.
There's just one really, definite corner.
Yeah, there's a corner of the oven where the heat is far more intense than the rest of them.
Yes, it's closer to the equator.
Yeah, it is. We've spoken to people across a number of series of Bake Off around the world, and they all comment on the ovens. And they said it's getting used to the way the ovens work. In Australia, for example, to use the Australian example, because the floor is quite springy and bouncy, because it's a bouncy shed, because it's actually a tent, as we found out. The floor is quite springy, and when you walk, the doors slightly open and close. Oh. So that means that the oven temperature is never quite consistent. See, in British Bake Off, and I need to ask, I haven't actually asked this question, and I do need to ask. In British Bake Off, they bake every morning. Every oven has a test cake baked in it.
A Genoese.
Yeah, to make sure that it's cooking to the same temperature and all the ovens are consistent. I need to ask if they do that in Canadian. But I know that they've said that because these are all temporary ovens, the first couple of bakes are a bit tricky to get used to them.
Yeah.
So
that said, they still turned out better than anything I could bloody make. And his jam, to be frank, Tanner's jam as he's making it, and he's like, I want it to be glistening and look like jewels.
And it did.
And it did. It had that little, that cartoon little corner of shine.
How he managed to get that so shiny.
The Queen is like, bring me Tanner. Here's one of my Commonwealth subjects, and I want his shiny jam.
I need jammy gems.
Yes.
Bring me jammy gems.
No.
We need to talk to Her Majesty because she's a fan of the podcast. And
she is.
You've never met her.
No, I haven't. Every time I duck out of the room, she appears.
It's ridiculous. So we'll have to get her on a future episode. Maybe we'll find out what she thinks about the jammy gems in a future episode.
Maybe she'll drop me off a corgi.
I hope so. For your benefit, you really do. So this is where Anne's drag race really kicked off. She got really into Sheldon. Go, do it. And she really got on him. And then went over to Oyax and was making sure that there were extra biscuits just for her.
She's like, oh, how many are there?
So she's doing the move which we have come to refer to as the levy.
Yes. I believe it's bequeathed in the green room for the hosts.
There is just a thing called the levy.
The levy.
And it's a tax, so it's a levy in two ways. So
the levy.
But then Oyax was struggling to get them all out, and the next thing you know, Maggie just visualises in front of him. It's like, how can I help?
Yes, and then starts
throwing all the
them
biscuits
across.
And then we get to the judging. So with Dominic, they said the lemon and the poppy seed are well baked. The strawberry one was slightly under, but the jam tasted exactly like Kyla's aunt's jam. And Kyla goes, that's the highest praise I can possibly give you. Larry, they said that Larry's were really good, but they needed a lot more jam, that he was a bit stingy on the jam.
Oh, come on, Larry.
I know, but they also said that they were worried, of course, because we didn't use the almond. He used hazelnut. They were worried about the bitter aftertaste, and they said he managed to balance them so the bitter aftertaste didn't happen.
That's good.
So that's well done. Mahathi, they said the cutting was excellent in terms of the way she'd done the biscuits, and the spices in the wine, they said, balanced perfectly.
That's fantastic. Again, Mahathi, we're there for you. You, me, midwinter.
Tanner, they said the jam was ultra shiny, and it was, but they said that unfortunately the bake was inconsistent. And Bruno pulled one of the biscuits apart, and you had a really dark bit and a very blonde bit.
So well trying to hide it.
I know.
There's icing sugar on it.
This is the thing.
He's put the dark part under, in the middle.
This is the thing. They are too good to know where all these problems are.
It's like when your mum just knows that have you cleaned your room? Yes. And then she looks under the bed. You're like, no, that's where my clothes are.
That's where I hid everything. They did say that the lime in the biscuits, though, added a lot of flavour and a really nice pop. Oyax. A word, unfortunately, that Oyax heard a lot in this episode, inconsistent. They said the flavour was really good of the biscuit, but it was lacking a lot of jam. It needed a lot more. Poor Oyax. He just had one of those weeks, and you have them. We see them.
Yeah.
Maggie, Kyla absolutely loved the look of her biscuits. And, you can tell that Maggie does, biscuits all the time.
Yeah. We should try and keep calling them cookies because they're Canadian.
True. Sorry.
And if I keep saying biscuits, they'll be like,
they want
bloody
scones.
Bloody pommy descendants come from convicts.
I'm sure they say it exactly like that too.
Yeah.
Bloody convicts.
bloody convicts.
Anyway,
you come over here on a boat and steal land from people who were already well established here for 40,000 years or more.
That's exactly how Canadians sound.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'll bloody set a goose on you. Come on, move along.
how you like the way you go bloody set a goose on you and then go move on?
Yeah.
Nothing to see here.
Just throwing it out there.
So
You're supposed to be keeping this moving.
They said that Maggie's cookies had a really good consistent thickness, and you could see that. The jam was great, and the contrast was really good. And then Bruno just called them perfect. So,
and I saw her using a little stick to measure it with.
Yes.
I thought it was a matchstick at first, but I think it was just a stick that was dipped in jam or something to give it a little pink end.
Now, Sheldon's looked really good, but they said it was a really large, and they was. The cookie was about the size of the stroopwafel they had in the next challenge. It was huge.
I'm sorry, but if you're going to like judge someone and it's on the size of the cookie, I'm only here if it's small. Like if it's too little, mention it. Too big, STFU. Like that's unnecessary. Big cookies are good.
But the problem was then Kyla then needed more jam in it because it was so big and the jam wasn't filling it to the edges. They said, however, the tahini worked beautifully. And Rafficat, they said it looked like a bedtime story with all like the sun and the moon. It looked really pretty. They said, unfortunately, the baking was a bit inconsistent. The ganache and the coffee was beautiful. But the cookie had texture issues.
Oh,
Not what you want.
No.
And then we get to the technical. The technical bake this week is stroopwafel. Now,
we love saying stroopwafel.
Now, stroopwafel is
Dutch, but we say it with a German accent for some reason.
they're the good Germans. Anyway, the nice Germans in World War One. Anyway, so the stroopwafel. So the stroopwafel is fascinating because it is one of the rare challenges in Bake Off history that broke a series. Now, there have only been a few. Canadian, creme caramel.
Yes.
It is the bake that broke the bakers. And again, if you've never seen the footage of Bruno walking back in post creme caramel, looking at all the bakers and going, guys, it's one of my favourite moments of all time. In Australia...
The emotions he moves through in those split seconds.
Oh, it's amazing. In Australia, jam drops.
Yep.
That's an amazingly simple, you would think, bake. It broke a season.
Do you think Canada's trolling both Australian and British by pulling up something similar to a jam drop that's not a jam drop with the Lindors?
And doing it.
And doing it well. And then the stroopwafels, which they all knocked out of the park.
So stroopwafel was done in British Bake Off, and it is regarded by many as the worst technical challenge ever attempted in British Bake Off history. The highlight was Noel Fielding going on a tour of Amsterdam, which I can't help but feel was a private request from Noel Fielding.
It's like, look, I've just got... Look, can you just pick up a bake from Amsterdam? And I'll head over there. I'll do the whole, look, I'll investigate this, but I'll be stoned off my tits while I'm doing it.
So they sent Noel over to do the investigation into the stroopwafel in Amsterdam, and he did the tour of Holland and was photographed in many places, probably off his face. But the stroopwafel bake then, in the technical, every single baker failed it. It was appallingly done.
Yeah.
So I saw stroopwafel and freaked a little.
I'm like, oh, we're going to get this? Is it going to happen? Oh, but everyone killed it. Like, yeah, there was some inconsistencies and maybe some cutting issues, or caramel wasn't quite as stretchy, but they weren't abject failures. It was pretty straightforward.
There was only one that I was actually really looking at and going, oh, and it didn't even come last.
No.
We'll get to it. But first of all, can I just say, it's a Bruno challenge. I could happily listen to Bruno say waffle all day.
Well, I'm sure you can get that as an ASMR video.
I'm sure if I ask Bruno nicely, he will just record the word waffle for me.
Yeah.
Over and over, and my phone can ring to Bruno just saying waffle. I was just mesmerised. And when he was talking about them, he just kept saying waffle, and I just kept on getting further and further into the television.
Started levitating 3 inches off the ground. And
I do that anyway. That's an evening. Now, Maggie was being everyone in lockdown who had any form of education going on at home, where she's like, I've been doing 3 months of like homeschooling. Surely I can do maths. No. She's like trying to
It
calculate.
was long division, which is my enemy. And like, Maggie, I feel you. Long division is what kept me out of a selective school. They tried so hard to get me to get the maths in my head, and I couldn't. Like, so many teachers were like, no, obviously they can't teach you. I'll have a go at it. And I just feel like I broke a lot of teachers because they're like, how can you be so smart in these other things? And when it comes to long division, and I still can't do it today.
Now,
That's why we have calculators. And now I just want to take a moment, because I'm sure you're listening, old maths teacher. Who said, oh, you won't always have a calculator on you? Well, living in the future, bitch. I got my phone with me like 99% of the time, and that 1% doesn't count.
can you work out percentage on your calculator for me? No. So, no cooking time. So they left off the cooking time, and it was great because we got this debate where Bruno was like, obviously they were trying to work out if you left it for a minute 45 or a minute 50. The answer was a minute and a half.
Yeah.
And it was like these little minute details there. Now, what I forget about a stroop waffle is, one, as a challenge to watch, they are technically amazing, but a little bit hard to commentate on.
Yeah, it's like,
Because there's not
one's
much.
out.
It was 45 minutes. There was no time.
They're shaping it, they're cutting it, they're filling it.
But-
Oh, next one's out, dough's in.
But here's where the challenge is. I forgot that they don't make two waffles. I forgot it's one waffle cut in half.
Yes.
And it's a thin waffle.
Like that cutting skill is pretty awesome.
Like, I have the faith in my own ability to make the stroop waffle. I have zero faith in my ability to cut a stroop waffle in half. I've seen my cutting. I wasn't allowed to use scissors at school for the longest time. I'm a teacher. I still don't like using scissors at
You don't
school.
have your scissors-
I worry that
scissor license.
I worry I'm going to lose a finger.
Yeah,
You know-
doing a stroop waffle would just mean like you come back and I'd be like, there's like just flesh missing from your hands. Like, I'm making stroop waffle again, my love.
You know, I lost a knuckle on a kitchen...
On a mandolin.
Yeah, on a kitchen mandolin. So, you know, that's true. I actually did lose a knuckle on
And
a
he
kitchen
was
mandolin.
using the safety device.
I was actually. That's the scary part. It slipped out off the safety guard. I did finish cooking dinner, by the way. Just putting it out there. I did. Kristie looked at me,
Had a
what? And I
nice-
went, there goes my knuckle. And I just put a Band-Aid on it. It was throbbing. I got very Julia Child in the Save the Liver. Dan Aykroyd's version, obviously. But yeah, like, I could never slice. I would throw them because I would start the cutting and at some point the knife would go slightly diagonal and I'd slice through the middle of it. And by about the third one, I'd just be throwing them at people.
Yeah.
And they're the right shape to throw at people, which is great. Like, they are like flinging discs.
And if you cook them long enough, they'll be hard enough to do some real damage.
They are. The other interesting part about it, if it was one
Like
of
a
tennis,
minute and a
if it was
half,
tennis, for
perfect.
example.
1 minute 50, you're pushing it. 2 minutes.
Lethal weapon.
Lethal weapon. Suddenly, like, you know, the police rock up, they bust in the tent, they like put down a stroop waffle.
Down the stroop waffle. One of the things I loved about this, though, is that in the British one, they struggled with the waffle, but they struggled to make the caramel in the British one. And, like, it's a really hard caramel to make. Got to have the right level of pull.
Yep, because
And the only time that Bruno...
say pulling
The only
caramel.
time that they did mention butter...
Yes.
And Bruno didn't because he wasn't in there, obviously. But the only time they did mention butter was the fact that the butter would split if you got it too hot in the caramel. So you had to get the caramel at just the right consistency to stretch.
Yep.
Really hard to do. That was kind of the end of the challenge, though, except for when Rafikat turned around and asked at the end about numbers because she'd eaten one.
She goes, we only need 12, not 14, because I ate one.
I ate one, and it's like, and like
Yes.
that's everybody. Everyone's like, I just forgot where I was for a moment. Ate one. So the judging, Maggie was first. They said it had a rough edge, the colour was inconsistent, but there was a good stretch with the caramel. And then Bruno commented on the timing issues and turned around to everyone and went, wasn't it on the recipe? Smart ass. Larry, they said it was a good waffle with good texture. Oyax, they said he had some issues in cutting and once again it was slightly underbaked. Mahathi, they said, made a really good waffle. They're really quick with her. They were like, good waffle, move on. Sheldon, it was really dark. It had a very dense caramel as well.
And
it was a bit bitter because of the way he'd overcooked it.
Yes. It was like an old queen from the 1990s.
Dark,
It's just
bitter, and full of dense caramel. Anyway, Rafikat, they said they were very consistent. there was too much caramel going over the outside, but it was really good. And a lot of people commented on the fact they were talking about caramel oozing out, too much caramel. And much like you with the size of the cookies before, went, I failed to see the issue.
Too much caramel.
Too much caramel. That caramel's all oozing out the side. Oh, no. However will we cope? Now, Tanner's was the one that I thought was actually going to come last because they went too dark, too dry. They're very solid. It's got a very flat flavour. And, in fact, we can crumble it. And they pulled it apart and it turned to dust. And I'm like, that's got to be last. No, it wasn't.
No.
And then Dom's, they said the caramel was oozing out. Good pull, good flavour. And the complaint about the oozing out there was you don't want all of your caramel on somebody else's stroopwafel. And look, I think that's good advice to live by.
And particularly in COVID times, like cross-infection there. If your caramel is oozing out on other people's stroopwafel, I mean, you've just got to dispose of it. And that's a waste of caramel and stroopwafel.
It's life advice to live by. Do you really want your caramel on someone else's stroopwafel?
I mean, there are certain members of society that enjoy that kind of thing. But
we don't encourage it in the pavilion, especially not in COVID times.
It's a family show.
So, Sheldon, 8th. Somehow beating Tanner, who, again, it was like a scene out of The Mummy. Then Maggie's was 6th, Oyax was 5th, Rafikat was 4th, Dom was 3rd, Larry was 2nd, and Mahathi was 1st. Which took us to the showstopper. And the showstopper, they were obviously channeling a bit of Pink.
Yes.
Very family portrait oriented.
Oh, God. Okay, yeah.
There we go. You were wondering where I was going with that, weren't you?
I know. Thank God you didn't reference Nickelback.
No, why would I do that to Canadians?
Look at this photograph, because isn't Nickelback Canadian?
Yeah, but why would I remind them?
Okay, true, yeah. We can forgive them.
Again, on one of our favourite radio shows, there was a Canadian who rang in once and commented on the fact that going overseas usually told everyone he was Canadian, but then he found out that Nickelback was Canadian. And so he decided that he would probably be rather associated with the Iraq War than Nickelback and made that decision. Look, they tried to have a bit of a comeback with sea shanties, but no, it's Nickelback. It's still the paddle pop lion that is Chad Kroger. And I suggest Canadians, if you don't know who I'm talking about, you probably won't, look up the paddle pop lion, then look up Chad Kroger. I rest my case.
All people residing in miscellaneous city, though, like the highlight of your childhood was going to the Easter show, which is like a
county fair, a large county fair, state fair.
It's a state fair. And of an evening they do like the entertainment around the grandstand, and one of them was the paddle pop line coming out and throwing paddle pops into the crowd.
Paddle pops are ice creams, by the way.
Yeah, they're like on a stick, a popsicle.
It's a popsicle. It's a branded popsicle.
But it's creamy popsicle, not an ice cream.
It's a branded creamy popsicle. Usually, there's many flavors. Chocolate's the most.
Yeah. Then there's choc caramel. There's caramel. They haven't done the choc caramel in years. There's rainbow, which is just
caramel.
Banana. They used to the banana.
No,
that's an interesting flavour. They used to do a strawberry.
They did. They don't do it anymore though. But yeah, so when we talk about that, Chad Kroger,
vanilla was the worst. Though.
Yeah, well, why would you bother? Chad Kroger, paddle pop line. Look it up. You'll thank me. All right. What I loved about the family portrait showstopper was Alan. I was wondering how long it was going to take Alan to get a reference in to the 2019 Raptors. The answer was 4 episodes, folks.
Yes.
4 episodes. Good job. Really impressed.
Yeah.
So...
Better Raptors than the Leafs.
So, 2 types of biscuit in any 2D or 3D shape. So, in other words, in any shape.
Yes, 2D, 3D, just no one-dimensional.
And if you go with the 5th dimension, we're walking.
Yep, none of that. 4th dimension's pushing it. Yeah,
but 5th dimension, no. Must include royal icing on there somewhere. 3.5 hours. And then we got a couple of this. What struck me about this challenge is there were some mistakes in this challenge that I have never seen. Right, or it's been a very long time at the least. So, we have once famously seen in Australian Bake Off somebody turn their mixer on. The mixer walked itself off the table, fell to the floor.
Before they noticed.
And kept mixing. I've never seen somebody struggle to get a bowl on a mixer like Maggie. And she looked
on.
No, it was. She was trying to put it on the thing and couldn't get it in. And then she's looking at the camera like, help.
But I thought she actually had it on because it was wobbling that much. But that was just...
It was just her wobbling it, trying to get it on there. Now, Kristie was a bit disappointed. And Sheldon, it wasn't disappointing that you're an immigrant. It
No,
wasn't
no.
disappointed that
I
you were
think-
telling your
I think what
family.
you-
your family story was magnificent.
And the execution was beautiful.
The honey chai and the coconut macarons were fantastic. Macarons were fantastic.
No.
But
Drag family.
come on.
Come on.
I mean, look, what you did graphically was unbelievable.
I know.
And the emotions. And
There's the woman who gave birth to you,
and the
your
pulling,
sibling.
the
It's
pulling
just
at the heartstrings, as Kent Brockman would say,
panda.
as Kent Brockman would say, you tugged at the heartstrings and fogged the mind. But Shantae, you stay.
Yeah.
I mean, look, drag family. Think of the vibrant colours.
Maybe he couldn't get enough glitter. That was the issue. Like, he's like, I can't get enough glitter and sequins onto.
Oh, surely there's
a
enough.
cookie.
Surely there's enough glitter.
I don't know. It's COVID times. There
It
might
is-
be
I
a
mean,
shortage
it is
with
COVID.
everyone doing crafts at home.
That is the
and
point.
all the what's it called? The drag performances at home, drag performances that people put on Zoom.
Zoom, yeah.
The Zoom performances. Yes.
So Tanner.
Yes.
Now, Tanner went with a postcard from the Falls. Now, there were a couple of options I thought he might have gone with.
A barrel.
I thought, well, barrel was the first option I
Barrel
thought too.
flavour, at least.
And he could have actually had, like, the barrel biscuit, a barrel cookie falling off and, like, snapping half.
And then his family tumbling out.
Yeah, all of his family falling out of the like, you could have made a living mural where you literally walked up with a barrel
Yes.
and dropped it and your family fell out of the cracked barrel. Think of the theatre of this.
Yeah.
Like, you could have borrowed some of, like, Sheldon's mist from last week and you could have, like, put that around the bottom like the falls were for. Or you could have done the falls at cleaning time. No, one of my favourite times with... Have you never seen the falls at cleaning time?
No, what?
They shut the falls off.
What?
They literally shut the falls down. Every few years, I think it is, they shut the falls off to clean it up.
No, you're bullshitting.
I'm not bullshitting.
How can you switch off a waterfall
They
that big?
block it up the other end and they shut the falls down
No.
for a cleaning. Type in Niagara Falls cleaning. You're welcome. Christie's looking that up. But people in Canada right now are going, yeah, they shut the falls down to
I
clean
thought
them.
this was like a drop bear scenario.
No, they legitimately clean up the falls. Right? You will find images of them cleaning up Niagara Falls. They turn the waterfall off.
Okay, I've got it open.
Right? So anyway, while Christie's looking that up, Maid of the Mist. They could have shown Jim and Pam from their wedding on The Office.
Yeah, but that's on the US side, I presume.
Yeah, well, you could have shown like a Canadian view. We could have got the Canadian view of Jim and Pam's wedding.
Yes.
That could have been fantastic.
Just two little dots in the distance.
Yeah, who
It's
are
like
they?
The
I don't know
Office is
those random
essentially
people.
my family.
Yeah.
There's so many Office fans.
He
they would
instead
agree.
went with, again, peach sugar cookies. And like Bruno later on when he was talking about it, could not believe that they'd managed to get the peach flavour into those cookies so strongly. So that was amazing. Dom went with sparkling wine sablé and gingerbread, and her scene...
They switch it off.
Oh, Christie's just found it. So anyway, Dom's scene was cats around a fireplace.
Yes. Oh, yes. Okay.
We are seen.
I feel so seen. Like two people that gas bag over a microphone. I mean, they do it more regularly than we do, and they get paid for it. And then three cats. And it's, instead of a fireplace, ours is like around a TV. But
We have a fireplace.
we have a fireplace
The cats have never been around the fireplace except to urinate behind it.
because it's one of those.
They do that a lot.
Yes.
Anyway, but the sparkling wine sablé was really an interesting call.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've never been a fan of wine tastes in bakes unless it's in the cream.
Yeah.
Although we've had cognac and Contro, so
We had Contro. Contro was lovely. Anyway, Raffacat. Now, Raffacat, I thought Raffacat's concept, especially with two comedians hosting, was sheer genius. She made her daughter's favourite knock-knock joke.
I know, and it wasn't rude. It was just very cute. It was boo.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah, you're
It was
crying.
so cool of an idea with orange four spice and chopped macarons for the roof.
Yeah.
Look, the idea was incredible. I thought it was a genius concept.
And I like the Simpson-esque couch in the middle.
That was really cool. Sheldon then continued this theme of weird mistakes. He melted a pastry scraper.
How did it get in there, and how did you forget how?
You should have just told everyone it was royal icing.
Just poison Kyler and Bruno. That's one way to win great
Just
Canadian
tell them
baking
not to
show.
eat that one.
Yeah, that one's a little chewy.
Yeah, don't eat that one. Eat the others. That one looks pretty, but I want to save that one. It's a family heirloom. It's a family heirloom.
Luckily, he made enough cookie dough to last 6 lifetimes. Like his bowl, it looked like it was overflowing with just what's that thing called? A cornucopia of cookie dough.
Cornucopia of cookie. Yeah, it was. It was huge. Then they cut to Mahathi, who had on the first cut icing all over her hair. Then when they cut back to her, she didn't. So they obviously cut to her and they went, oh, shit, cut away, quick, fix your hair up. Because the first cut, like, all of her hair has, like, strands of white icing through it, and then when they did the next angle, they were all gone. So they'd cleaned her up in the meantime. Now, Mahathi went with a Diwali theme. Yes. I'm not going to Michael Scott this. I was tempted, but I'm not going to Michael Scott this. But Diwali, obviously, the Festival of Lights. She went with a cashew shortbread, a gingerbread, and a tutti frutti.
What I love is the great cashew war at her house.
Oh, wow, what a concept.
Like, here's her dad and her, like, facing off over who will eat the cashews, and her mum's just kind of like, think of everyone else. I cannot cook if there is no cashews.
Where are the cashews? Yeah. So obviously the Diwali scene was going to be very colourful, which is a very clever concept to have in a showstopper. And I thought that was the thing that, where a lot of other people had come up with, like, cool concepts, I thought where Mahathi was really clever is she went with something that was automatically bright and colourful.
Yeah, but then she not only went for this, the look, but went for the substance by having 3 different biscuit flavours in there too.
And that was what Bruno, when they went, what's your only problem? And she goes, time.
Yes.
And they're like, well, you got a lot there. Kyla's like, well, let you be. Larry. Now, Larry, first of all, went with a kitchen table, because of course he did, with the whole family, with Geezer and the budgie.
Yes.
But went with very simple biscuits. I got the feeling, cookies. I get the feeling that Larry looked at Cookie Week and went, not my strong suit. I'm just going to make things that are going to work.
Yes.
And I'm not going to make any mistakes, and I'm just going to make sure that I'm fine.
Now, I'm going to do a bit of a throwback because I made you pause and rewind the show to see Larry's budgie, because I wanted to see what sex it was. And from memory, I believe it was a female because it had a brown above its beak. If you see a budgie, it's got blue above its beak, it's a boy. Brown above its beak, it's a girl.
There you go.
Blue and brown, just respect. Just respect. I mean, okay, I should say, out of respect to budgies, right? Like, the blue indicates that they probably have a penis, but whether they identify as
you're defining sex.
I'm defining sex. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
not
you're
gender.
defining sex, not gender. Gender's an identity. Anyway, Maggie. Maggie went with a holiday farmhouse. Now, what I love about this is that means that Maggie went for a farmhouse with about 1 billion people in it.
Just a compound. It's their commune. Christmas commune.
I want to know at what point Maggie suddenly rethought having that many family members in there. I like the idea, though, that family members had gone out of their way and said to her, look, if you have to build a family mural, I need to be in it. Ooh. What about cousin? What about my uncle? What about my auntie? And everyone's like, I need to be in the cookie mural.
I'm now worried that she's created Christmas controversy, and next Christmas...
anyone who wasn't in the mural?
Yeah, she's going to rock up to family Christmas, all happy and jolly, and there's going to be Auntie Maud just sitting there going, oh, nice to see you. I guess, I'm here. I mean, you wouldn't know. I don't appear on any cookies.
Yeah, where was I in the mural?
Yes.
I didn't get you anything for Christmas. Apparently, I'm not good enough for the mural.
I'm just a figment of your imagination here because I don't appear on any cookies.
Why were no random bakers allowed to bite my head off? I feel shunned.
Why is Cousin Sue and Cousin David ignoring me? You forgot to keep, to put their youngest Angus on the cookie, and they're a bit miffed.
Angus! Well, I mean, look, I was in lockdown. I'd never met the child.
He was only 3 days old.
That doesn't matter. It could have been a crumb.
He'd never been to a Christmas yet. Future Christmases.
Now, Oyax decided... Maggie's were orange cardamom, sugar cookies, and gingerbread. Now, Oyax, the concept was a really cool idea. Mm-hmm. Like that tribute to his father with his dad's library. Yeah. The 3 books was a lot. And when everyone else was using the royal icing as the main part, and the funny part was, the bit he did with royal icing was beautiful.
Absolutely. And it was simple, but it was executed perfectly and told such a strong story. It's like, I wanted more of that.
And then he went with one of my least favourite substances on the planet, fondant. And the fondant, it looked rough. It didn't quite settle. He was trying to steam it to get it moistened to glisten. It just would not do what he wanted to do. And as a result of mucking around so much with the fondant, he didn't get the bake done properly.
But you know what's interesting? We just watched that Anne Reardon fixing up bad bakes. And the thing that she mentioned with icing that was too dry was adding oil. So instead of steaming it to get the shine on it, he perhaps needed to add a bit more oil, mix it in to get that shine.
And if you wanted to see any of that, by the way, How to Cook That on YouTube by Anne Reardon. Absolutely fantastic videos. And feel free to comment under it. The washing up sent me here because, we want to get her on the podcast. Anyway, so he went with orange chai shortbread and sugar cookies. One of them would taste delicious. The other could be used as a high bounce ball. It could have been a bouncy ball. Now, Larry then left his weakness, piping, and went back to his strength, building, and was recrafting the table.
It was like he just went, look, I haven't had time to really focus on piping and icing. I'll just, take some stress relief and just build something.
Build a table. Now, at this point, they cut across all of the kitchen. And you saw Sheldon's piping from a distance and the green just stood out.
Yeah.
And then they cut over and Maggie's, the way that Maggie had done hers with the blues and the
making
hearts.
Little hearts.
The way that the flooding had been done for Maggie was amazing. And then they cut over to Mahathi. And she's got full construction of people with facial features, the colour, the vibrancy, and you're just
on the temple. I presume it's like a representation of the temple with the fire and the decorations and the little elephant. It's just and then the little chest.
That was brilliant, and we'll get to that. Now, normally when there's construction, somebody has a piece fall and it goes really badly. And we only had one. It was Rafikat, who had the front wall of the house fall down, but didn't break.
Thank goodness.
So, but she obviously didn't get everything completed, and that made everyone a bit worried. The judging. So, Maggie, first of all, Kyla loved those little details, things like the heart on the jumper, and Bruno even commented on the ugly sweater being there, which was perfect. They said all of her cookies were an excellent flavour, and the flavours complemented really well. Now, with Doms, they literally just looked at Dominique's and just went, you put all of your enthusiasm in a portrait. The problem was, as they said, that while the story was wonderful and Bruno loved the story, Kyla commented about the fact that the sparkling wine just went really sweet.
And I'm here for a childless couple with 3 cats being finally represented on TV.
About time. Larry, now Kyla commented, maybe this is your secret skill all the way along, Larry. Your piping was quite good. They said that the cookie flavour was really nice, but Bruno was disappointed for the size of a showstopper and wanted a bigger showstopper.
Oh, can't please him. Oh, your cookies are too big, Sheldon. Oh, your biscuits are too small, Larry. Oh, it's like Goldilocks. Bruno.
Now, Rafikat, first of all, they noted...
Bruno locks.
They noted the fact that she didn't finish. They noted the fact that the joins were not really well put together.
But the taste was amazing.
But they said the macarons were awesome.
The dark chocolate with the pepper.
Yeah, and the dark chocolate and the pepper on the walls was fantastic as well. They really loved the flavour. They just said Mahathi nailed it. And the details. Now, when they went, I think there might be something in the box, and they open it up, and that's where she hid the cashews. That was genius.
And her dad's going, Mahathi!
Now, Tanner managed an amazing postcard in the end.
Yeah.
The piping went right to the edge. He used the crispy meringue around the outside, which is...
I mean, you were talking about using what's that, liquid nitrogen to make the foam, but I'm here for meringue. I think that was the
100%. They said the blueberry was a little bit bubblegumish, but that wasn't a problem, and Bruno loved the peach.
Blueberries or Saskatoon berries?
They were blueberries.
Are you sure?
Yes.
No, they were blueberries, but I'm just saying...
No, Saskatoon berries aren't real. So, because as they said, the story was touching, but 3 books was tricky. The fondant didn't settle properly. The dough, unfortunately, on the first one was raw and rubbery. But the sugar cookie was very well baked and had good flavour.
My heart broke when I saw that. I'm just like, because he's been so solid for the past 2 weeks. And that first week, I thought his star baker potential, like getting to the end potential.
And Sheldon, they said it was super colourful and really bright. And, like, the flooding was amazing. And they commented on the bamboo. I love that bamboo. It's one of the best things I've ever seen.
The way he used the fondant to kind of have that, like, it's 2-dimensional, but it looked 3-dimensional with the way that the leaves were coming out.
And they said the flooding on the piping was incredible. They said the gingerbread was excellent and the macarons were absolutely perfect. So the judging in this one, I actually thought the judging this week was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
Mahathi was star baker.
Yep.
And there was no complaint there. And unfortunately, Oyax had to go home. And again...
Devo. Absolutely Devo.
That biscuit, which was rubbery, he had not a great week. That put him over the edge, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's disappointing, and obviously we've lost our first person who won a star baker.
Yeah.
It's always a bit of an interesting time when that happens. So, but obviously he will be greatly missed on the show, but everyone will be greatly missed on the show. It's a great show. So... obviously, that's your lot for this week.
Yeah.
We will be back next week. We may be back in the meantime. Who knows? We never do. We've got a couple of things in the pipeline. Probably going to be talking to a few more bakers in the next couple of weeks. And also possibly maybe a crossover with another podcast. Who knows? Not me, that's for sure. It's not like I'm organising it. Anyway.
Yeah, Bake Off meets like a crime thriller podcast.
Yeah, we're all on a crime thriller.
Who killed the gingerbread man?
That's exactly what we're doing.
It's an expose. It's going to be
That's
bigger
exactly
than...
what we're doing. Anyway, if you think you can work it out, feel free to let us know in the comments. Until next week, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
We'll catch you all later.
Just Devo.